If you've got a farm to table initiative for local small farms, breweries, wineries, or other types of farm to table groups, your community sponsored agriculture, you need to think more creative in this time of COVID-19. I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. Many of my clients have some kind of consumer-based service, such as a restaurant, CSA program, or some kind of other farm-to-table program. They may or may not be growing the food themselves, but they do have an interest in the local community. And right now, their restaurants are shut down. There's can only do takeout orders, and a lot of people are not spending money outside the home for food or entertainment. And this is a real mess. So what I've come up with is a creative way to give you an example of what may work. And I'm actually modeling this off of something that works in other areas. But what may work to help get business into a restaurant, for example. I want to demonstrate both strategic relationships. That's where several businesses partner together to share costs in order to reach the same audience. And I want to also demonstrate how there is a community of value that can be created to deliver such solutions. And in fact, these solutions help you compete against larger organizations as well as entrenched competitors. Now, this is a farm-to-table example, but you can apply the principles to just about anything. This farm-to-table example would be several restaurants partnering together using specialty ingredients and offering a bundled family meal. The family meal would drive on the opportunity that many people who are staying at home are busy and are unable to prepare a nice sit-down family meal. A nice sit-down family meal provides some opportunity for families to reconnect, but also feels really good. So we want to associate that feeling of connection and family to the restaurant itself. It would target families with children, school-age children in particular, as well as multi-generational households. Many people do not cook at home anymore, and they miss the opportunity to sit down. This sitting down, this reconnection with family, it's part of what builds community. It's part of what builds your prosperous homestead. This would be quality home-cooked food and possibly beverage. There are some people I have in mind for this particular program that have the sale of wine as part of what they do. Concierge or quality tea and coffee is also part of what they do. So there's a little bit of packaged goods here. But it would be a choose from a menu that would be a family-style meal plus dessert plus some kind of beverage. The meal itself would identify either a special recipe, a special ingredient that came from a local farm. It might have a story behind the meal itself, but it's available in 4, 8, and 12 servings. So one of the problems that restaurants are facing right now is that people can't come in and sit down and eat. And so now they get a little takeout order here and there, and it's not really a lot of business driving for the bottom line. Plus, the number of people who have come in to simply come in and do business with them has gone down significantly. So they have inventory that can't be used up, and that's why we chose 4, 8, and 12 serving sizes. That way it's not quite catering where you're doing 25, 30 servings. It is more of a family meal. And in fact, a busy family can order if they have a family of 4, they can order 8 servings and they can have leftovers during the week. Now, to make this work out, it would need to be prepaid because many of these ingredients may not be available. So we are looking at potential supply chain issues. And so it would pilot with a Wednesday night and a Sunday night dinner. And many families have these dinners. A lot of families go to church on Sunday night and they want to sit down and have a dinner before they go to church, or they may come home from church late on Sunday and want to sit home and have an early supper. And this allows them to swing by when they're already moving around or they're already en route somewhere, to swing by the restaurant and pick up their pre-order. Pre-orders would need to come in the day before because, again, these aren't, this isn't one meal. This isn't one sandwich. This is 8 sandwiches or 4 sandwiches. But the types of meals chosen would be, for example, barbecue ribs. So a serving of 4 of barbecue ribs may have a side of mac and cheese and some collard greens. Those are types of things that in quantity you want to be able to get the raw materials together. And plus, a really good rack of ribs or smoked chicken is going to take a lot of time to prepare. So you want to be able to have a specific pickup window. Now, we're not doing delivery because remember, these are restaurants that due to COVID-19 are unable to have customers and patrons come into that restaurant. So instead of coming into the restaurant, they would prepare these bulk meals to go out. There would also be a commitment to environmentally friendly materials. So rather than having individually packed meals and having all that styrofoam or individual materials, the meals would be in the small foil trays, so they're easy to reheat with just foil over top of them. So you wouldn't have 4 individually plated meals. You'd have a meat, a vegetable, and your starch. You may have half a cake as a dessert rather than having 4 slices of cake. And this would allow the restaurant to have a little bit better logistics when it comes to putting together the meal and being able to deliver that meal. It would have fewer pieces of waste. So the aluminum trays could be washed out and reused, not reused at the restaurant, but the customer could reuse them to heat up the food. So they could, a lot of times I take these aluminum trays and I might bake some bread in them or something, or I might use them to put barbecue in when I'm taking stuff off the grill. But ultimately, this commitment to environmental is that differentiating factor between getting 8 sandwiches at Chick-fil-A versus getting a good quality home-cooked meal while solving a logistics problem for the restaurateur to be able to get things together. Now, the seasonal desserts, you can partner with a bakery, partner with local folks who put together cakes and pies and other things. And cakes and pies and those things can be refrigerated for a week or two. But you could basically, if you know Tuesday what you're going to have, you can actually have 4 or 5 cakes on stock. Now, if you didn't know this about restaurants, many cakes like cheesecake and pudding cakes and German chocolate cake are actually frozen. So by having these 2 specific days a week, the customer can get what they want, but the restaurant can have enough stock in place so they're not doing too many substitutions on dessert. Now, of course, if you have a meal option and you have multiple restaurants involved, you want to have family meal A or B, family meal A or B, family meal A or B, because you want to have very few options for the customer. Now, I know customers want a lot of options, but when we're talking about the logistics of buying food, if you're now taking a list of 300 or 400 people and splitting it over the option of 3 restaurants, you may not get enough buyers at any individual restaurant to make this worthwhile. So you may even look at a choice of 2, and restaurants would pair and partner where one restaurant would prepare all the desserts and another restaurant would prepare all the meats. Another restaurant would prepare all the vegetables, and then they would ship them to a central location or move them to a central location on hot plates and then have the customer come in. There's a variety of ways to do this, but the logistics needs to be a certain number of meals at each restaurant to be profitable. So that measure would need to be put together in the front. And by the way, if you're in the Martinsville, Henry County area and you've talked with me in the past about restaurant marketing in particular, especially if you're one of the restaurants that I love to go to and you've seen me in the last couple of weeks, well, you need to call me at my office, and you've got my phone number, or you can visit me at my website, prosperityhomestead.org, and we'll get you in on this program because we do need to talk numbers. It's a creative way to help your customers during this COVID-19. However, it logistically has to make money for you because you've got other constraints. We talked about the inventory constraint. We talked about the other needs. But the key concept here is that it's bringing community together. The way I would get coverage on this, because again, this is an example of farm to table to show you creative ideas to not only weather COVID-19, but to actually succeed during this tough time. Well, I would be paid out through a marketing co-op that covers the marketing and also paid a percentage of each order. In fact, I would likely take the pre-orders, prepare that into a report, and then provide that to the restaurants so that I can actually track and measure. Now, here's the important part, is whenever you do something like this, you want to be able to track and measure. I want to know, how many letters did I send out? How many fax back orders did we get? How many orders from the website did we get? Which restaurant is getting coverage? Because I would have a certain responsibility to make sure that I'm offering the people on the mailing list the type of foods and opportunities that they're looking for. I might mail to families with children and realize that the parents at this time really would like some wine, because it's great to feed the kids, but they need a time apart. So there might be a family of 4 meal, but there also could be a specialty option, which is the romantic dinner for 2. And it may include a certain dish, plus a salad, plus a dessert, plus a bottle of wine. And it may even include, complimentary wine glasses that have the imprint of the restaurant that provided the wine, or an imprint of a winery that partnered in this program. See, you have to, as the marketer or as the organizer, have to make sure that customer is taken care of, because ultimately this is a service to those customers. Now, another thing that's happening here is list building. Each of these restaurants will eventually get to go open again. They may not want to do this meal program in the future because their counter service or their dining room service may be so much more profitable. So this type of program sets up a mailing list where those restaurants in the future can actually reach customers for group activities. So you're taking a family-sized meal and you can turn that into a catering opportunity for a birthday party, for a business meeting, for a nonprofit that's getting together for a fundraising dinner. But it can also be used to turn it into that lunch, or to that other just single sit-down opportunity meal once the restaurants are open again. The key thing I want you to take away from this is just because things are shut down. So right now what's happening is we've got a lot of farmers they're having to till under vegetables. We have a lot of meat producers who can't take their animals to packing plants. We have restaurants that are shut down. We have wineries that have distribution challenges of getting product to market. We have specialty bakers and caterers who are unable to do events because nobody's really having events. So this example is really finding a handful of those. I am looking for 3. I don't want to have 50 in this, just 3. And you run the pilot program to see how well it works for those restaurants, even if it's just getting out a core menu or getting a slow night to have a little bit better volume. But ultimately, the concept is a repackaging of what someone's already doing. The concept drives forward value for the community. How do we solve problems for the community? And it drives forward a economically feasible solution. So you have to discuss, can we do a meal for 4? If we do it, a meal for 4, and we package it in foil or the foil trays, which is a little bit more environmentally friendly, it costs X. If we individually package it in containers, it costs Y. If we package it in the recycled paper option, it costs Z. Which of these costs are most appropriate for the business? Those things have to be designed into the opportunity. But again, this is an example of how you can take the setback of an event like COVID and turn it around into an opportunity to grow. Even if you run the program for 3 months or some other program, for landscapers it would be different. For contractors it would be different. But even if you run the package for 3 to 6 months, you can actually reconnect with your customers. And that is the greatest value. That reconnection with customers, staying in front of those customers, offering them something that's unique and of value, offering something that opens doors for new opportunities in the future, builds mailing lists that you can reach out to customers either on social media, by postal mail, or by targeted advertisements so that you can bring them back when things get back to normal. I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead, and I hope this has been a cohesive and relevant example for you on how you can get back in track by just a little creative approach that partners and builds community. If you have any questions about this or anything else I offer, You can visit us at www.prosperityhomestead.org and ask your questions. Thanks for listening.